And we're live. Welcome everyone to the Crypto Herd. Also, welcome to everyone that's watching this on replay. I'm Bruno. And guys, a lot has been happening in NFT gaming. A lot of AAA projects are popping up. A lot of gaming ecosystems are popping up. A lot has been being built right now in NFT gaming. And all of this makes me wonder, when are we going to see NFT gaming mass adoption? And to answer these questions, we have here with us today the Web3 gaming OGs, Mike Levine from Planet MOJO and Kieran from ILLUVIUM. How are you guys? It's a pleasure to have you here on the Crypto Herd.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, ditto.
It's nice. So guys, why don't you start by introducing yourselves? I mean, I know you guys are Web3 gaming superstars already, but maybe some people still don't know who the great Mike Levine is and who the great Kieran is. So why don't you start by introducing yourselves and telling us a bit about what you're doing in Web3 gaming right now?
You want to go first, Kieran?
Sure. I'm Kieran. I'm one of the co-founders of ILLUVIUM, which is a fantasy-based auto battler and RPG. That's one of our titles. We've also got two others, which is ILLUVIUM Overworld, which is more like your Pokemon style game where you actually capture these creatures to then take them into the arena. And ILLUVIUM Zero sits over the top, which is where you basically, it's more like an idle clicker where you essentially extract your resources from the land that you own. And that's what powers the entire economy.
Okay, that's great.
Very
How about
cool.
you, Mike?
Yeah, love all the ILLUVIUM stuff I've seen. Yeah, my name's Mike. I've been in games since the early 90s, started at LucasArts, worked on a lot of great games there, and started and ran the visual effects department, and have done a lot in between, but I guess we'll jump forward to now and got into Web3 gaming about over a year ago. And like Kieran, we're making several titles, but our first is a auto chess battler, specifically like Teamfight Tactics and those games. So it's very tournament esports based, and building a whole world and narrative around that we want to expand into other games.
That's great. Personally, I played both games and I really liked them both. Both ILLUVIUM and Planet MOJO had a great experience. So guys, why Web3? Why didn't you just make like a traditional game and launch it on Steam and then made some additional DLCs? Why Web3?
Well, I did.
But why the change in your strategy right now?
I mean, yeah, if you want me to go first, coming from traditional games, and like our last game is on Steam VR, which we made in that world. And yeah, I mean, to us and to me personally, Web3, whatever we want to call it now, blockchain gaming, it just represents the next paradigm shift in gaming, where I think first and foremost, players can own their assets. I think that's going to be the thing that really resonates most with Web2 gamers. And then from there, just deeper community integration where you're really part of a project, and then all the earning potential, for people who are into that, I think comes as all wrapped into an amazing package, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Likewise, I sort of echo those thoughts. I think gamers have been waiting to have verifiable ownership of assets for a long time, and blockchain gaming allows that. Now, obviously, there is the potential to earn money in these games and yields and stuff like that, but first and foremost, we need to make really immersive experiences and fun games that resonate with the true gamer in, I guess you could call it, mainstream, even though we sort of want to get away from that and just define Web3 games and Web2 games just as games.
Okay, I think it makes
Totally
sense.
agree.
I think maybe right now the words Web3 and NFT kind of scares away a lot of people. You know, especially after what happened with games like Xe and Titan Arena, where a lot of people lost money. You know, I feel like most people are kind of scared about these words.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue there was the barrier to entry was so high. You know, people were spending up to $1,000 just to get in and play the game, and if you didn't have that money up front, then you needed to borrow it, or you needed to you know, have someone you know, let you use those assets, and then you work out some sort of a split or whatever like that. And that just fundamentally goes against what games are meant to be. You know, that the biggest barrier to entry that in mainstream that we've ever had is, you know, a $99 game. If you're in Australia, I think that translates to something like 75 in the US. But when free to play first came out, it was also very you know, a lot of titles got it wrong, and it was based on a lot of mobile games, and it just wasn't done properly. And then slowly over time, people and a lot of people were against it, especially publishers. And it's very similar to what's happening here. And I think I'm not sure what MOJO is doing, but in our case, it's we've got free to play across every single one of our titles. And the idea is get in first and try out the game, see if you like it, and then from there, it's not this huge step into the pay to play style of game. It's you know, microtransactions, and it really eases the gamer into the experience where they can start, you know, earning and owning their assets.
Same here, really, almost identical. You know, we've put a lot of time into how do we want to onboard Web2 gamers, you know, and especially when we go to mobile, and, you know, now there's new guidelines, so we have to change our plans, but not really too much. Really, everything, for the most part, we've been planning sort of have these two separate versions almost, and we look at like mobile as it's really a huge opportunity to bring in, you know, have mass adoption of players, you know, in all these platforms, but mobile especially just has such wide reach. And, you know, I think whenever new paradigms come out, especially people in games, you know, we need to put labels on them and try to get our heads around it. But it's like, you know, you fast forward 10 years later, and, you know, my wife's playing mobile free to play games. Would she ever call it free to play? No, it's just a game, you know, that she plays on her phone. So I think that's a lot for the hardcore people and people who follow this. But, you know, yeah, I think we still have a lot of messaging to do in this space to attract Web2 gamers. But the most important thing is we just have to make fun games. That's by far the most important thing.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, like, free to play should be like, I think it's one of the key features for mass adoption, definitely. If someone has to buy an NFT that costs like $300, I mean, it's going to be very, very hard to attract those traditional old time gamers. And also what you mentioned, Kieran, about like NFT ownership, I felt like what we're trying to implement in Web3 gaming with ownership and the free market is what players always wanted. I still remember back in the day, I was playing like Runescape, and there were already people like selling gold in third-party websites, like kind of illegal and shady stuff, you know. But what we're doing here is kind of like giving this possibility to players. So it's like we're inventing something new. We're just giving players and gamers what they've always wanted.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? Like, a lot of people think, or when they hear crypto, they think, you know, scams and black markets and terrorism and all of this terrible stuff that comes with it. And obviously, there's an element of truth to that, and certainly in its infancy, cryptocurrency was you know, primarily used for that sort of stuff. But fast forwarding 10 years forward now, and you look at what we're trying to do with gaming, is we're trying to make it okay to trade your assets, right? Like we don't want you meeting up on street corners or going to eBay and these other markets where the publisher is saying, no, don't do this. This isn't allowed. You're not allowed to sell your account and all this kind of stuff. Now we're using the blockchain to really incentivize and encourage our players to go and do it. And in most cases, you'll see the publisher is actually creating their own marketplace for them. We're certainly doing that with the ILLUVIUM. You can go and trade your land now, and that will always be the case. And I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. From World of Warcraft to RuneScape to Diablo, like people have been trying to do this inside games for decades.
Yeah, and that's all asset trading, not trading, but selling assets like skins. I think that's also not new. Maybe we're doing this in the form of NFTs in some projects, but selling NFTs has been like huge market in Web2 in like games like League of Legends or Fortnite, for example. So the difference is that you can actually buy and sell it back. And back then you could only buy it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's a huge upgrade, huge. I feel like
you can also play with it and make it more powerful and maybe more valuable or rare, and then also be able to sell it as well. So there's that aspect.
Okay, so talking about this, actually I'm curious, what do you guys call yourselves, your own projects? Is like Planet MOJO and ILLUVIUM play to earn, play to own, play and earn? Because right now there are so many terms. In which category does your games fall into, and why?
To be honest, I want to sort of get away from all of those terms. We're building a inbuilt non-custodial wallet, which essentially is some pretty words for a wallet which we will hold your assets for you. It'll be tied to your account, and you won't even know necessarily that you're playing a blockchain-based game. And then when you feel like the time's right, or maybe you're educated on what a blockchain game is and how you can actually own your creatures, and in our case, the alluvials and the skins and the weapons and armor and all that kind of stuff, you, with a touch of a button, can migrate those assets to your own wallet, and all of a sudden you're a crypto user. So we really, really want to try and move away from all of these, play to earn terms and stuff like that. But if I had to say what we are, we're probably a play and earn.
Okay, like play the game first for fun, and then earn is kind of a second. It's like a bonus, right?
Benefit. Yeah.
Here's my thing on this. One, I'm with you that I hate all these terms, but I feel like as a industry, or whatever we want to call ourselves, like I've been saying this recently, like everyone kind of does need to get on the same page, because otherwise it's going to be like increasingly confusing to Web2 gamers when they start hearing all these terms: play and earn, play and own, play to earn. It's like, if we could all, it's almost like we need a political campaign. Everyone needs to get on the same page. I personally like play and own, and I think that's the ownership thing is going to resonate with gamers the most. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I've said it many times, but I think calling these games earn, at least to Web2 gamers, was not the best idea. You can earn currently in Web2 gaming, right? You can enter tournaments and Magic the Gathering, even. That's like Web 1 gaming or something physical. But, that's always going to appeal to a certain amount of people. But most gamers are first checking out a game, right? Because they want it to be fun. The earning usually comes later. Like Magic the Gathering didn't have tournaments really until a decade after it was in its existence. So it won't take us that long. But I think the same concept applies here. And I just think we have to be careful with, too many Web2 gamers, they hear the word earn and it can turn them off.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I feel like play to earn and play and earn, I think especially play to earn. It worked for quite some time back then when X Infinity was at its peak. But I feel like, yeah, right now it's not the best approach, especially if you're
I think Kieran's though right though in the end that like we just have to get to the point where these are games, you know, and none of this really matters. And then like, sorry to cut you off, and like people, you know, it's like, oh, this is a really cool game, and oh yeah, it has this blockchain stuff. If I want to take advantage of it, you know.
Okay, I think makes sense. So if you're a member of our, oh, sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, Kieran.
Yeah, I just feel like there'll be a few games that come out that really drive forward what the narrative is, and that will sort of set it. I just don't think we've found a game that's really that has even really been played by Web 2 gamers, if that's what you want to call them. And so once this experience of one of these games that's building right now that is, you know, of the same quality as what mainstream gamers are used to, the whatever terms they use are sort of going to catch on. And ideally, I hope that there are no terms that they use. It's just called a blockchain game, and people understand over time that a blockchain game means that you can own your assets versus what a typical publisher will do, and they will hold custody of those assets, and you won't be able to do anything with them. So yeah, I think that's the distinction there.
That's the approach for mass adoption. So if you're a member of our audience, Nicolas, so welcome, man. So he's saying he would love to see Mike play ILLUVIUM and Kieran play Planet MOJO. Have you guys tried each other's games?
I'm down. I haven't had access to the beta, but I'd be happy to try it. Of course.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I didn't actually know that there was another studio building an auto chess game. So I feel like I've maybe seen or heard you guys maybe like 9 or 12 months ago, something like that.
But, yeah, maybe when we announced our funding, that got the
most. Potentially. You raised like 5 mil or 10 mil or something.
Yes, the first one. That was at least that announcement. We've raised a little more since then, but yeah, and then we've been quiet. Well, not that quiet, but hard at work building this and our initial set of champions, and we've been private play testing this now for the last month with real people, multiplayer. We have bots too, but we've been testing it all multiplayer, and yeah, we're going to be sort of moving into alpha, adding in like the progression stuff and the meta and rewards and all that. And it's a WebGL game right now, by the way. So it's in the doesn't look like most WebGL games, but we're pretty proud of that. But our plan is, at least after this, to take it to mobile. So we're and hopefully have crossplay. I mean, not hopefully, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like that would be huge. I mean, mobile games now are the big trend, especially in countries like the Philippines, for example. I mean, the market is just huge. That would be like very wise approach, definitely. So guys, next stream we have to be like Kieran playing Planet MOJO and Mike playing ILLUVIUM. But you guys,
I'm down. I'll 100% be happy to play it. Looks very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I've already played it, and it was also a nice experience. So, guys, this leads me to the question, which is like tokenomics. I feel like right now in NFT gaming, one of the hardest things is to build sustainable tokenomics in the long term. So, how do you build sustainable economies in a Web3 game? Like, what are your strategies to make sure that your blockchain assets don't dump in the long term or don't go like below mint prices?
We've got quite a few methods that we've implemented to ensure that the assets remain valuable over time, and that's the biggest thing, right? Like building a sustainable economy around this blockchain type of game is how you reach the critical mass that I think we're all trying to achieve. And the first thing that we do is we release our characters in sets. So our first set is 150 of the alluvials that you've probably grown to love, and we're obviously very proud of them. And so after that first set, there'll be another set that comes out, and it may be that you see you think that there's 40 or 50 really sought after characters, or alluvials in our case, in that first set, but in the second set, the ones that you didn't think were very powerful, or the meta in that case in the arena games when you're battling, they then become the meta. And so what happens is you get all these people who did capture those alluvials, and all of a sudden they become a ton more valuable, just because we might not have as many air alluvials, or earth, or fire, or whatever it may be, and you'll find people, and the only way to capture those alluvials is to literally buy them off someone else on the marketplace. So that's one way that we keep the assets valuable. Another way is through fusing. So you can take a stage 1 and fuse together 3 of those stage 1s, and that will burn 3 of the stage 1s, and it'll create you a stage 2, which is obviously more powerful, has more effect on the battlegrounds, and essentially we're removing assets instead of inflation, where you have the same characters being bred over and over and over and over again. You see them depleting, and obviously, if that trend continued and people kept on you have 2, and then you got to go and buy another one off the marketplace because the set's over, and you just want that stage 2, you're going to get someone who gets a nice value out of having a single one left, but you're also going to get to the stage where there potentially could only be a single alluvial left in that set, right? Which, once you get to set 10 and set 15 and however long we end up going, those assets become extremely valuable over time.
Okay, but I got one question, which is like, so Illuvium is going to have like an open world, right? And you also have land gameplay. So do people go like into the open world and they catch illuvials like if they were Pokemons?
Similar to that, yeah. And how the land works is, or how we keep that valuable is, we've let so 5% of the in-game fees go to the landholders, and we've only sold 20,000 plots of land. Now there's set to be 100,000 land plots sold, but we're fully decentralized and governed by a council that it's their decision when they decide to allow the DAO to sell more plots of land. And so it might never happen, right? Like if there's not enough players to I guess extract that value out of the land, then the landholders are going to say, hey, no, don't sell more land, because we're just going to flood the system, and we need to wait until there's more players. If we're in a fortunate enough situation where we have millions of players and there's only 20,000 land plots, I'm assuming that the DAO is going to say, hey, sell some more land immediately, because these guys are getting way too much fees from the in-game play for all these players that have influxed in. So yeah, that's sort of how we keep our assets valuable, and it's at the forefront of everything that we think of and everything that we do, because as I said, that's the crux of building I believe a successful game that has longevity inside the blockchain space.
I mean, still 20,000 land plots during a bear market is quite impressive.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, it was. To be fair, it was right at the end. I mean, or maybe right at the start of the bear market. But yeah, it was. A lot of people said don't do that sale in these market conditions. But it's not about extracting value out of our community. It was literally about, we need those land plots to be in existence in order for ILLUVIUM 0 to be played.
Okay, makes sense. Actually, I remember I made some money with the SILV, because I remember you could buy land with the SILV, so the price went up. So I actually did like a quick trade there, so it was quite nice.
Nice.
What about you, Mike? What can you tell us about Planet Mojo's future tokenomics?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kieran, I mean, a lot of the things he said are very similar to what we plan on doing. The first part of what he was talking about with limited sets and new sets and letting the community, you know, we also plan to similar way, but we don't have an open world as of now, but win the characters just through our auto battler game and playing and progression and being on sort of giving them non-NFT versions, like Karen was saying, that they can turn into NFTs when they have hit certain goals or criteria, basically. So, yeah, like I think, you know, we haven't released land yet, so it's definitely fascinating listening to all Karen was talking about. I mean, we have a lot to do in that regard and plans, but yeah, as the market has been what it is, we've really just wanted to focus on this game first. And that's why I think too is the sort of main stupid answer to this question is like, how do you have a game have good tokenomics? Again, just have to have a fun game. And that's easier said than done. So, because, you know, you can talk tokenomics so you're blue in the face, but if people don't want to keep playing your game, it's really not going to matter. And if you do have a game that people want to play, then as long as you don't have bad tokenomics, it's going to increase the value, right, of your assets, of your token, and all the other things related to blockchain. That's our feeling. And, you know, we've really tried to keep our tokenomics simple and introduce those over time after the game has come out in terms of our token, as you know, as a reward token and eventual governance, and eventually get into land, which we've shown a little bit of, and it's pretty amazing and unique, we think, in the space. So we're excited to get to that, but one thing at a time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like obviously a good game first is always the priority. Should always be the priority. But I feel like you also have to like balance your blockchain assets with your player base. Like if you have a player base of 20,000 players and you sell 100,000 NFTs or something like that. Just a stupid example, but I feel like those NFTs would lose all their value, and maybe the people who bought, who minted out those NFTs, maybe they're going to see their investment going down. So I feel like, yeah, gameplay should be like the priority, but also, I mean, I'm not developing a game, but that's just me saying, I feel like you have to balance your blockchain assets more or less with your player base.
Well, I think Kieran said this too, like a lot of it comes in the sort of collection, the tiers of the assets as well. And, you know, if you have generation as a attribute as well, that can make it more valuable. So people understand if they're the first ones getting them, you know, if they're like Genesis or whatever, ultimately at some point, right, if we want it to be, if we dream of mass adoption and millions of players and we want all those people to have NFTs or have the ability to, then there has to be some way to sort of tier them, right, and have the true collectors sort of scale up if they want to go out and seek out those higher rare, you know, cards, assets, etc. As Kieran said, they're out there in the marketplaces.
Makes sense. So your game is already looking really good, Mike. It's actually impressive that all of these runs on a browser. I was quite surprised about it. You guys are releasing your beta in December, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're about to announce our plans for the alpha with prizes and stuff over the next month, and then as we're feeling good about it, hopefully moving in then into open beta and doing some fun tournaments and things like that. We've had some people streaming it recently, and it's been a lot of fun watching them. But you know, we still have a bunch to do, and a lot more depth and assets. You know, this is kind of our initial starter pack that we've used for testing. So we've got about 3 more champions coming very soon that I'm excited to show off soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna add some more content. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So guys, if you didn't check out Planet Mojo and ILLUVIUM, links in the description. So what about the metaverse. This concept has been around for quite some time, and I feel like people are still a bit confused. What's exactly the metaverse? Is Planet Mojo and Illuvium a metaverse, or a game, or a collection of games, or what? How would you classify your games? Your project, I mean.
So we're a universe, right? I guess inside of the overall metaverse. I don't think it makes sense to. I think it was another one of those buzzwords that came out, 2 years ago or whatever, and when Facebook was suggesting that they were going to convert over to a metaverse and call it Meta, and now they subsequently have. I think when you really look at it, there can only be one metaverse. And so when we talk about our ecosystem of games, we call it a universe that sits inside that overarching metaverse. And yeah, so I think that would be the first thing that I would say about the metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem when you have these sort of nebulous, undefined terms. Everyone comes to it with a slightly different definition, and they're all totally viable. Like what you just said, of course, that's one definition of it. For us, I think, and having, seen first calling them 3D worlds and virtual worlds and that whole phase, it's like we're building a rich, diverse world with characters and story and narrative and games, and a world people can a virtual world that people can explore and escape to and have social features in it. If people want to call that a metaverse, fine by me.
Go ahead. Okay, that's great. Well, I feel like the metaverse, yeah, it's kind of like the term. No one really understands exactly what it is. It's kind of like subjective. For every person, it's a different thing. Some people say we already have the metaverse. We have the metaverse since we created our first avatars in Second Life or something like that. And for some people, the metaverse is like a VR experience that's going to exist in the near future. So
I'm old enough to remember even Club Penguin. And
okay.
Habbo Hotel, more in your neck of the world, was bigger in Europe, right? Remember those? I mean, those were 2D.
Okay. Metaverses. So guys, what about gaming ecosystems? I feel like gaming ecosystems now are the trend. I mean, a lot of projects like Immutable X or Gala are popping up right now. Miri is one example where they have like a token that is used somehow for every other single game that belongs to that ecosystem. Would you guys ever consider joining one of those, like Immutable X or Gala?
I mean, we're already using Immutable X's L2.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so,
tell us about that decision. Why did you take that decision?
It's just a really good platform for us to scale. We want to give users the security of the benefits and the security of Ethereum, and but unfortunately, Ethereum is just not scalable. Certainly not to the level that we need when we're talking about potentially having millions of players and hundreds of millions of microtransactions on a monthly basis. It's just not scalable. So we decided to partner with Immutable X. They're the makers of Gods Unchained, and
oh yeah, they have undead blocks there too.
Yeah, so we really feel like they are leaders in this space, and especially in the L2 space, and we just weren't willing to go on a side chain or alternative L1s just because of the security of our users.
Okay, makes sense.
I mean, for us, we're on Polygon, but which are probably Polygon and Immutable are probably the two leading things I think people talk about with Web3 games at this point, with some other, I guess, contenders in there. But, our whole thing is, one, we want to be cross-chain. We didn't want to be siloed. We want to be able to bring in users from different communities. And that's what we've kind of built our system and our back end, which is, very robust. We have people working on our back end that worked on MMOs for 20 plus years. And we built something that's very simple and elegant, but it lets us bring in people really from any chain over time and sort of to our Web3, Web2 hybrid, basically, where we're kind of like what Kieran said, storing what assets, keeping track of them at least on our back end. The difference is we're never, at least at this point, we have non-custodial wallets and we never really take control. When they own them, we never take control of those assets.
Okay.
We just let them play with them.
So it's like solid choices. So guys, next question. What are the key features a project must have to succeed as a Web3 game? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think we touched on it quite a bit. This needs to be a fun game. It needs to be immersive, addictive, replayable. It needs to be competitive. You know, the idea that we're both building an auto chess game, you know, it's got to be, I think, that competitive thing that makes you keep on coming back and wanting to get better and better and better. That's the first thing. And then over time, I think a sustainable economy that has longevity, they would be the two main things that I think you need.
I would agree with everything he just said. I'll just add to that. Maybe I think community is a big part of this space too, and having ILLUVIUM has an unbelievable community, obviously, like having that kind of robust community. This is sort of how I looked at this space also, or one aspect of it. I said it earlier that if you think about community in gaming, it's really evolved over the last decade, where you see developers interacting and game dev blogs, and this is like the next evolution of that, because we're like right there with them and ultimately giving them choices and letting them have control of it and voting power. So that I think is the last spoke in that wheel.
Well, I would add also like how easy it is to be onboarded on your project. Like if you demand people to connect your MetaMask wallets and switch to the Binance Smart Chain network and create an account and QIC, I mean, I feel like that's gonna harm your project. I feel like, for example, two great examples I think we have in NFT gaming right now is like Eve.io and Mini Royal Nations. It's like these games are literally just like you open the browser and you have a button saying play now. That's it. And you're playing a Web3 game. Then obviously if you want to like get their in-game tokens or whatever and progress in the battle pass, then you have to create an account and maybe connect your Phantom wallet. But if you don't want to, just like play now. That's it. It's really easy. And I feel like that's a key feature for mass adoption, for success in this space. Because like right now, there are a lot of games who demand this, and I feel like it's kind of like harmful in some way, you know?
Yeah, you just got to lower that barrier to entry. People don't care about wallets and NFTs. When I say people, I mean traditional mainstream gamers don't care about earning $15, $20 a day, right? Like they care about the experience that they have inside a game. They care about sharing that with their friends and competing and having it become super addictive and replayable. Like that is the main proponent of a really, really good game. And there's while having the blockchain underpin a lot of these games, it gives us access to what we were talking about, that verifiable ownership of assets, but it can't be shoved in people's faces. Right? Like the offboarding process has to be seamless. That's why, we will, in the case of someone not connecting their wallet, we will store their assets on the blockchain for them. And when they're ready, when they understand what blockchain gaming is and they want to dip their toe into earning and yields and all of that kind of stuff, that's when you can take your assets and you can put them into your own wallet. It's under your own custody. And, that transition is done in a way that's not what you're talking about at the start, where it's just like MetaMask pops up or whatever chain you're on. So it's like, that is just not a good experience, no matter what anyone says.
Yeah,
No, I
definitely not.
totally agree. And the way we look at it too is a lot like, especially because we want to taking it to mobile, is like a free to play conversion, right? And like that has become a science at this point, right? After a decade, but no one knows really what that looks like in the blockchain world. How do you convert a Web 2 to saying, hey, set up a wallet or make that jump that you were just talking about? So I think, yeah, we're going to see like tons of A/B testing and different things, and just like we've seen in past paradigm shifts, like the things that are working will bubble to the surface, and then you'll see everyone copying those things, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes just like a case of success, and a lot of other projects will follow.
Oh, back in
Yeah.
the Facebook days. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Just an anecdote from the history of gaming. Back in the Facebook gaming days, I just remember Zynga used to, if they would move a button, like later that week, 10 companies would move the button to the same spot on the screen. I mean, every single time. Like, they must know something.
Yeah, it's a bit of a copycat game sometimes, with some improvement here and there, with a little change here and there. I feel like that happens in every field. Like, for example, even as content creators, we go there at other content creators who are successful in the space, and we check out their channels, what they're doing, how they're placing their titles and everything. So I feel like that happens in literally every industry a bit. Why are you going to invent the wheel if it's already invented, right? So guys, top 5 Web3 games you're most bullish on in Web3 gaming. So I think obviously, Mike, you're bullish on Planet Mojo, and Kieran, you are bullish on ILLUVIUM. But which other games do you feel like are being successful right now in this early phase of NFT gaming?
You want to go first, Mike?
Sure, I'll go first. Well, now obviously ILLUVIUM I'll add to my list. No, definitely was one of the better looking projects. You guys were started, but when we were just starting, so you guys have always been way out in front. And I had to think about this question, so I did make a little list. But for me, it's like, and these are, I guess, the projects maybe I'm most looking forward to. Aurora, I really just like the look of it and what they're doing. Phantom Galaxies.
Definitely.
I'm not giving up on Axie. Okay. And Mini Royale and Ev.io we're big fans of as well. So yeah.
It's crazy. I haven't actually I've heard of maybe the first one that you said, Aurora.
It's on Solana, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I must stick.
There's so many.
Yeah, there's like 2,000 games that are building now. For me, I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They're in stealth mode, a lot of them, but Civitas is one of them. They're looking really, really good. The team's awesome. Nor is another one that I think just has a really cool gameplay loop.
I know Brooks. Yep. I'm very hopeful of that. Yep.
Cloud Castles, the guys that I just spoke to at they're basically building like Heroes of Might and Magic, but for the Web3 world, which
okay,
I spent stupid amounts of time into that while growing up. And Planet Mojo looks really, really cool. I'd love to get alpha access if possible.
Done. Yeah, easy. We'll get you in.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, and I thought your top 1 was Star Atlas. No, just joking.
I want to see some gameplay first. That's what the hard thing is, actually building gameplay, and I'm always impressed when I can see a playable game, and especially in a short amount of time. We built this in a year, and we were pretty focused and a small team, so we're pretty I
think it's like an MVP, a minimum viable product, at least, like a glimpse of what your game is going to be.
Sorry, Bruno, I've actually got to run in like a couple of minutes. I thought this was actually a 30-minute live broadcast. I'm really, really sorry.
I think we're done.
Yeah, we're almost finishing. Just one more question, I think, and one question from the community. Like 5 minutes? Can you hold 5 minutes?
Yeah,
And we'll be done.
yeah.
Okay. So we have here Nicola. When ILLUVIUM World Beta?
There's no, we haven't set a date for it. We're done with setting dates, but we've got the ILLUVIUM 0 Alpha that's coming out very, very soon. We've got the open world beta, which private beta, I should say, which is coming out again very, very soon. The order will probably be the overworld first and then ILLUVIUM 0. But yeah, the thing is, good games take a long time to build, and we've obviously been building for 18 months. But to have 3 AAA games all releasing within 18 months is pretty insane. So so yeah, it's coming. You'll see the quality of all of our games when they drop. We don't sort of skimp, and that's why things have taken a little bit longer than expected. But yeah, just hold tight, and it won't be too long now.
Okay, guys. So last question: Web3 Gaming Mass Adoption. Is it coming? When? What do you guys think? Do you think we're heading there to Web3 Gaming Mass Adoption?
We just need a few of these games that we just spoke about to come out, and once that happens, it's going to come, right? Like, gamers find the best games to play, sort of regardless of where it is, which is why, you know, we've decided to just launch on Ethereum and then, you know, Immutable's L2 network, but I don't see any reason why other gamers won't flock to other chains. So, you know, going cross-chain is obviously not a bad idea, but yeah, once wherever the fun games are, that's where the gamers are going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like all the things we've talked about too on this call, which seems like everyone in the space is realizing, like that the barrier to entry, it needs to go away. You know, that old model, like more of a model of openness and accessibility and just letting people play the games, having the games come first is going to be the key. And I think this whole space is realizing this. Is it going to happen overnight? No, but it'll, you know, over the next few years, I'm pretty optimistic. Yes.
Okay, I would say next year. I feel like we're already heading there with some AAA projects.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a
I feel like
gradual
increase.
just like free to play was really, it took over.
Yeah, I feel like slowly we're going to start to penetrate in the gaming market, you know, 1% by 1%. So guys, I have no more questions. Thanks a lot for coming. People, check out ILLUVIUM and Planet Mojo. Links in the description. Guys, it was an honor to have you on board. Thanks everyone for watching, and see you in the metaverse.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're offline.